Guys, if you disagree with any of the conclusions reached in this video or my take on the story, feel free to let me know, just don't be a jerk about it. After all, the story of Dark Souls is all about finding it ourselves through the pieces given to us. I expect a little debate here to happen. The world of Dark Souls 2 brings us to the land of Drangleic, owned by King Vendrick, a previous chosen undead. Much like how our character back in Dark Souls 1 was destined to destroy the lords and usher a new era of his choosing, so did Vendrick. Story says that he vanquished the 4 old ones, and with the power of their souls, he created a new age of fire and created a kingdom of his own in the very same land. The kingdom wasn't that impressive, neither was it tiny though. Imagine your average sized kingdom with nothing that cool going for it, that is. Until Nashandra came. Nobody knows where she came from, only that she had unparalleled beauty. She seduced the king and became queen of the kingdom. Mysterious, dark, and extremely manipulative, the queen convinced the king he needed to invade the lands of the giants, for they were a threat to the empire and held a treasure without equal. The treasure that Vendrick stole from the giants is by far the biggest secret in the world of Dark Souls 2. Its power is well known, as well as the repercussions of its usage, but the very item itself still lies a secret. Vendrick invaded the lands, pillaged them, and stole this ancient powerful relic and brought it back to Drangleic with him. With this new power, he created the golems, and then the golems made the castle themselves. Whether this artifact gave him more abilities or powers is not truly known, though gossips do say it gave him his giant shape and strength, though that could have also had been the cause for having a magnificent soul, much like most of the bosses. The important thing, however, is that with this newfound power, the kingdom knew an age of peace like none other, a dark, sinister peace, that is, until the giant nation attacked. No peace ever lasts, and with their primal treasure stolen, the giants amassed an army through the years to rival that of Drangleic, to get it back at all costs. The war destroyed Drangleic. Vendrick did win the war, but it completely brought down the kingdom to rubble, since the war lasted decades, if not centuries. Most civilians ended up leaving the kingdom for more peaceful lands, and that's without even mentioning the... wait for it. The undead plague, of course. You see, suddenly everything went downhill really fast. The undead plague started appearing, decimating most of the country. War was on the very doorstep, and if that wasn't enough, the king started to notice something very strange with the queen. Her darkness. He could feel it. You see, we all know Nashandra's true form. We know that she's a creature of darkness who wanted the throne for herself. What you might not know is that she's actually a shard of Manus. You see, all dark creatures have the furtive pygmy as their ancestor, the very first dark soul. And from this soul came Manus, father of the Abyss. When you killed him, however, back in the DLC for Dark Souls 1, his soul broke into multiple shards. Shards that through millennia slowly formed into bodies, humans, and creatures. Nashandra is but one of those creatures, the smallest one in fact. Legends say that because she came from the smallest shard, she molded herself into a living being first. But also because she was so small, she wasn't quite as powerful as her brothers and sisters, and because of that, she coveted that which she didn't have. Power. This is why everything related to her has a suffix of want. You see, Nashandra's plan all along was to usher the famous Age of Darkness, as it rightfully should be. As all ancient creatures do, those with Lord Souls or Dark Souls, she knew exactly where the first flame was located, and traveled there to manipulate the king into giving her all the items she needed in order to do so. The king wasn't that dumb, however, and eventually found out about her darkness. The fact that I find the most interesting here, however, is that as soon as he figured out who Nashandra truly was, everything suddenly went bad. It's almost as if the world knew the Age of Darkness was finally coming, and the era of peace and tranquility bloomed. But then as soon as the king realized what was happening and tried to stop it, war comes, disease comes, the plague comes, everything goes to shit. This is why I love Dark Souls. There's no darkness is evil and light is good paradigm. Sure, the characters think so, but in reality there's no such thing. The Age of Fire is a nice, peaceful age with colors and warmth and activity, while the Age of Darkness is a nice, peaceful, calm, quiet and sleepy paradise. There's no bad or right, both are equally nice. People tend to fear the dark, but they forget how calm and nice it is to sleep in darkness every once in a while. Anyways, the king wasn't about to let the queen have her way and turn darkness into the world. He and his older brother Aldia did everything possible to stop the plague, but with no avail. They tried corralling the undeads in prisons, they tried experiments, magic, everything, but nothing worked. When everything else failed, the king decided the only way to stop the Age of Darkness to finally come was to enclose himself in the crypt, protected by his knights and his right hand Velstad. For you see, The knight had the final key to the first flame, and without this key, the queen would never be able to get the hands on the fire. Now, this key in particular is very interesting to me, because if you pay close attention to it and you study what it truly does and the magic that it possesses, it gives you insight on what might have actually happened in Drang Lake. I may have discovered something truly hidden here. You see, the famous secret treasure that Vendrick stole from the giants may have been in fact the Lord Vessel. The one key item that was definitely needed to open the doors to the kiln of the first flame. The one thing you absolutely needed if you wanted to forcefully usher a new age of either darkness or fire. You see, the ages, they come naturally. After a long time of fire, darkness just kind of naturally comes, after which fire comes later in a very determined system. The whole concept of linking the fire, or putting it out, really is just a way to forcefully do it, but it was never really necessary. For Nashandra, however, it was, since Vendrick wasn't willing to end the era just yet, so she needed to force it. After Vendrick realized what her plan was all along, he actually destroyed the Lord Vessel in defiance. You can find its remains in the basement of the mansion. It matches the Lord Vessel from Dark Souls 1. Now, what links this all together is that if you pay close attention to the King's ring, it actually looks like the Lord Vessel as well. The King actually made a ring out of the Lord Vessel, which is why you use it to open the door to the kiln of the first flame. Incredible, huh? Obviously, to use the Lord Vessel, you do still need the souls of the 4 old ones, which Vendrick already had, which is why, as an extra precaution, he took the soul out of his body and hid it at the Shrine of Amana, just for extra insurance in the case that Nashandra would actually go and kill him. Then she wouldn't have the last piece of the puzzle. This is why to open the door to where his soul is, you need to be human and not hollowed. The magic would prevent Nashandra from opening it. The chosen undead that you play, however, doesn't need the soul, since you actually go and kill the ancient ones again anyways, which is why it was never mandatory to get Vendrick's soul. Mind blown, huh? It is actually suggested that not much time actually passes from when all of this happens to when your character starts the game. In Dark Souls 1, it was about 1,000 years of the land corroding by itself before you start, and here I calculate no more than maybe a few decades, maybe a century at most, since the king hid himself. But that's the story of Dark Souls 2, peeps. I, however, wanted to talk about
reasons why Drang Lake is actually Lordran.
Or so I feel like doing, but I feel like I've already made that point very clear just by telling you guys the story. But just so we are on the same page, Lordran is the place of Dark Souls 1, by the way. There's a lot of evidence that suggests that we're actually on the very same place, just obviously thousands of years in the future. But again, I feel like you guys get the point. The kiln of the first flame being located in this land, the 4 old ones residing here, the undeads being drawn to the land, the existence of demons located below the Iron Keep, the altar of sunlight existing in the land while also being literally unchanged, the Melfinitos created by, well, Nito, to reside in the ancient crypt to protect old ancient tombs of gods and lords. Honestly, at this point, it really does feel silly to suggest that it could be any place other than Lordran, so I'm not even gonna ram this point any further. Now, there's still a fair amount of story to be told, like the story of the Iron Keep and Aldi and the DLCs, etc., but this video is already running for too long, so if you want to hear those, let me know. But I hope you all had fun, boys.